Well, joining us now is the Labour MP and Shadow Cabinet member Jim Murphy, campaigning for Better Together. And I should say we're hoping to be joined by the SNP's Justice Secretary, Kenny MacAskill, as well. Jim Murphy, I understand that you have campaigned yourself hoarse. Is it going to be a help or a hindrance to know that these three British parliamentary leaders, English parliamentary leaders, are going to start joining your campaign in Scotland tomorrow?
Well, you're right, I am hoarse, I'm losing my voice, and we'll find out next week whether I'm losing the argument. I think that what your question highlights the fact is that for another week or so, these people still share the same nation as Scotland, the United Kingdom together, Scotland, England, Wales and Northern Ireland, in an unpredictable, uncertain, sometimes unsafe world. That old trade union idea of unity as strength is still relevant today. And of course, we've always said that Scotland could be independent. Every nation has the constitutional right to be independent. But most Scots patriots, of course not Scottish nationalists, but Scottish patriots, think that that sense of sticking together, and if we want change, we can change our governments, but independence is forever. There's no going back. If it doesn't work out the way that nice man, Mr. Salmon, tells us, we can't take it back to the shops. There are no guarantees whatsoever. So we can change the Scottish government, we can change the British government. Every few years we get that chance, but independence, there's no going back. And I think increasingly undecided voters are focusing on that when we get close to the referendum.
I understand that, but is it helpful to have these three Englishmen led by David Cameron arriving in Scotland at a time when Scots are thinking about their future? I mean, they don't seem, from what we've been hearing from people on the street, to be terribly popular.
Well, they're English and British, and I'm Scottish and British, and most people in Scotland are Scottish and British. Now, in terms of the individual leaders, of course, Scotland didn't vote for David Cameron or Nick Clegg. The majority of Scotland didn't even vote for Alex Salmon, but there's a real, I think amongst Labour voters, there is an appreciation that Ed Miliband is coming to Scotland again, as he said himself, to listen and to discuss the future and make an argument that there's a Labour alternative to the current vision and version of Britain that we currently have. We can have things like a living wage, not just a national minimum wage, an action on energy prices. We can make real changes. We don't have to change our nationality or change our passport to get some sort of political change. And today, I mean, a remarkable comment by the Governor of the Bank of England that sharing a currency is incompatible with sovereignty. Because what we've been told by the Scottish Government and the SNP
I understand that comment. I do want to bring in Kenny MacAskill now, though. Yeah. And Kenny MacAskill, we have been in this together for 307 years, and to a certain extent, if there is a yes vote, it is about the Scots turning their back on the English, isn't it?
No, I think we'll maintain the social union, we'll maintain the links through currency, through the monarchy. So all the links that we've had with family and friends will continue. But the decisions that matter to the people of Scotland will be made in Holyrood by the elected representatives of Scotland, not by an English Tory government or a government that we did not elect and is not wanted in this country. We'll decide if we're to go to war or we'll live at peace. We'll decide if we're going to give tax cuts to the rich and impoverish the poor. We'll decide if there's going to be nuclear weapons or we're going to enforce the bedroom tax. But the peace and friendship, the harmony and cordial relationship that's been built up for those 300 years will continue, and indeed I think will be strengthened.
What do you say to that, Jim Murphy?
Sorry, I'm laughing. I'm sure it's bad manners to laugh, to say that by voting to make England a foreign country, our ties will be strengthened. I mean, it's a ludicrous, made-up claim. But as to this point, that we'll be able to make our own decisions here in Scotland. Most of Scotland didn't vote for Alex Salmon, most of Scotland didn't vote for David Cameron. But the version of independence we've been offered makes no sense whatsoever. The idea that we break away from the rest of the United Kingdom and we keep the Bank of England running our economy, our interest rates, our mortgage rates, the rates on our credit cards, on our car loans, all our big decisions would be made in a foreign country and in a foreign capital called London. There's already too much power in London, there's too much power in Edinburgh. But the idea that we have political independence and tie ourselves economically to a country which we would have absolutely no influence in, we would no longer be sending any members of Parliament to, makes no sense whatsoever.
Let's bring in Kenny MacAskill on that, because bearing in mind what the... It does appear to be the state of things, doesn't it, that if there is no agreement on a financial union, or even if there is with an independent Scotland, you are actually going to have less control over the levers of your economy than Scots people have today, aren't you?
Not at all. We'll have significantly more. And let's hang this canard that Jim Murphy's been saying, that
if you have a currency without a central bank, which is what you're proposing in your Plan B.
You cannot. Well, if you'll allow me to say, countries such as France and Germany share a currency. Nobody suggests that they're anything other than independent nations.
They share a central bank as well.
Issues such as going into an illegal war that Jim Murphy and his colleagues took us in, that made the world a less safe place and cost the lives of hundreds of thousands, won't take place.
France and Germany share a central bank. Plan B, Scotland does not share the Bank of England. So you wouldn't have the same sort of control as France and Germany, would you?
Well, Adam, we'll see what happens after the referendum. But I'm old enough to remember Westminster politicians saying they would never devalue the pound, and they did. I remember a Chancellor of the Exchequer saying we wouldn't believe the ERM, and they did. Now they say there won't be a currency agreement, and there will be. But at the end of the day, well, if Jim would stop interrupting... If Jim would stop interrupting, I would attempt to say that what we're seeking to do, as I say, is to get into a currency arrangement that would suit both north and south of the border. It would be, as I say, a currency arrangement suitable to north and south of the border that would involve
the referendum. The people...
Well, Jim Murphy, I'm sorry, I'm in London here. I'm trying to referee this contest between you and different parts of Scotland. Could you just, Mr MacAskill, could you just finish, and then I'll let Jim Murphy have his say. Mr MacAskill.
Well, thank you. Jim didn't seem to be particularly hoarse there when he was interrupting considerably. What we say is countries such as France and Germany share, as I say, a currency and do not cede their sovereignty. We do believe that there will be a currency arrangement and that the best option would be a currency union. But it's been accepted by the Better Together campaign that we can maintain sterling because it is, after all, our currency. So that will be the currency upon independence. But it will be in the best interests of those north and south of the border to share that currency within a union, to have arrangements that other countries, large and small, have, that don't cede their sovereignty but allow their people to make their decisions through their parliament.
OK. Jim Murphy, what do you say to that?
Kenny, the idea, obviously the most important thing that you said, Kenny, and the opinion I'm sure of most Scots, is let's just see what happens after independence. You cannot have your mortgage relying on it'll be all right in the night, your car loan, your credit card debt, our entire economy, our jobs, our businesses, on your economic policy, Kenny, you're saying it'll be all right in the night. The fact is, the Governor of the Bank of England, with respect to you, Kenny, the Governor of the Bank of England knows much more about the economy than yourself and many of the others. He has said it's incompatible with sovereignty. You need a Plan B, you need it quick. And of course, the opinion polls have narrowed in the past few days. Now, of course,
have to leave it
that
there.
means
we will be
now you have a
visiting this very much over the next few days. Thank you both very much indeed.